The global power structure, shaped after World War II, was built on a foundation of Western dominance and clear alliances. For decades, the Cold War cemented divisions between East and West, but today, those old boundaries are dissolving as the world faces unprecedented shifts. Turkey and Serbia, both deeply tied to Europe through history, culture, and geography, are now seeking BRICS membership, a move that signals growing dissatisfaction with the Western-led order and a desire for new partnerships. Turkey, a NATO member long frustrated by stalled EU accession talks and shifting Western priorities, is now asserting its strategic autonomy by looking east and exploring alternative alliances. Serbia, balancing its EU aspirations with strong ties to Russia and China, sees BRICS as a logical extension of its multi-vector foreign policy, aiming to secure economic growth and political leverage. These moves highlight a broader trend. Smaller nations are increasingly refusing to commit exclusively to one bloc, instead maximizing their options and influence in a rapidly evolving multipolar world. The unipolar era dominated by the US is fading, as emerging economies build their own institutions, challenge established norms, and seek greater influence on the world stage. The potential inclusion of European nations in BRICS marks a critical phase in the transformation of international relations, signaling a willingness to break from tradition and embrace new global realities. As alliances shift and new partnerships form, the geopolitical map is becoming more fluid and complex, with emerging powers and established nations alike reshaping the global order for the decades ahead. BRICS began as a 2001 investment acronym, coined by a Goldman Sachs economist to describe the rising economic potential of Brazil, Russia, India, and China. Over the years, this simple acronym has evolved into a powerful geopolitical force, shaping the global agenda and challenging established norms. The original BRIC, Brazil, Russia, India, and China, began as an informal political dialogue in 2009, meeting to discuss shared interests and global challenges. Just a year later, the group expanded to include South Africa, officially becoming BRICS in 2010 and broadening its reach to the African continent. In 2024, BRICS welcomed 5 new members: Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE, nearly doubling its global population share and significantly expanding its economic clout and regional influence. The bloc now accounts for 46% of the world's population, representing billions of people across multiple continents and cultures. It also commands 29% of global GDP, with its member states driving growth in both established and emerging markets. BRICS wields major influence in energy markets, controlling vast reserves of oil, gas, and other critical resources that power the world economy. United by a desire to reform Western-dominated institutions like the IMF and World Bank, BRICS members advocate for a more balanced global order. To achieve this, they have created their own alternatives, such as the New Development Bank, which funds infrastructure and development projects. The bloc also promotes trade in local currencies, reducing reliance on traditional Western financial systems. By doing so, BRICS is actively challenging the dominance of the US dollar in international trade and finance. The group is building a parallel financial system, aiming to create a more inclusive and multipolar world economy. These initiatives offer developing nations new options for growth, investment, and greater sovereignty over their economic futures. The transformation of BRICS into a dynamic political and financial alliance is why countries like Turkey and Serbia now see it as a compelling alternative to traditional Western blocs. The bloc's rapid evolution is redrawing the lines of global influence, shifting power toward the global south and emerging economies. BRICS is no longer just an economic grouping, it's a catalyst for global change, shaping the future of international relations and economic cooperation. Turkey's BRICS application is the result of decades of frustration with the West, a journey marked by repeated setbacks and shifting alliances. Over the years, Ankara has grown increasingly disillusioned, prompting a decisive shift in foreign policy, as it seeks new avenues for influence and growth. Once focused on EU membership, Turkey's hopes have faded amid stalled talks, growing disputes, and a sense of being kept at arm's length by European leaders. Ankara's independent moves, like buying Russian defense systems and forging new military partnerships, have signaled a willingness to chart its own course. These actions, along with diverging on key issues, have strained ties with NATO and the EU, leaving Turkey searching for new allies. Facing endless delays and diplomatic roadblocks, Turkey is now diversifying its partnerships, aligning with BRICS's multipolar vision and seeking a more balanced global role. The application submitted in 2024 is a calculated move to seek alternatives as EU prospects dim, and to open doors to new economic and political opportunities. Turkey's geostrategic position as a bridge between Europe and Asia makes it a natural fit for BRICS, especially given its deepening economic ties with Russia and China, and its role as a crossroads of global trade. This pivot isn't about abandoning the West, but about maximizing autonomy, expanding influence, and securing national interests in a rapidly changing world order. Turkey aims to leverage its unique position between competing blocs, acting as a connector and a power broker on the world stage. The move signals a new era of strategic flexibility for Ankara, as it redefines its place in the global order, and looks to the future with renewed ambition. Serbia's interest in BRICS reflects its long-standing strategy of balancing East and West. While pursuing EU membership and Western investment, Serbia has also built strong ties with Russia and China. Russian support on Kosovo and Chinese investment in infrastructure have made both countries vital partners. BRICS membership would formalize Serbia's multi-vector approach, offering new markets and financial resources. President Vucic's hints at joining BRICS are a pragmatic response to global shifts and EU delays. By signaling alternatives, Serbia gains leverage in EU negotiations and maintains autonomy. This strategy allows Serbia to benefit from all sides in a multipolar world. Serbia's path is about flexibility, not rejection of Europe. For Turkey and Serbia, BRICS offers more than symbolism. It's about real economic and strategic gains. The bloc's vast market and growing GDP provide new opportunities for trade and investment, reducing reliance on the EU. Access to the new development bank means funding for infrastructure without Western conditions. BRICS's consensus model gives every member an equal voice, unlike Western-dominated institutions. For middle and smaller powers, this is a chance to engage global giants as equals and shape global governance. Membership enhances strategic autonomy, letting countries avoid choosing sides in the US-China rivalry. BRICS is a geopolitical insurance policy, affirming sovereignty and national interests. For Turkey and Serbia, it's a path to greater independence in a shifting world. The idea of European nations joining BRICS has sparked strong reactions in global capitals. Moscow welcomes the move, seeing it as a strategic win that validates BRICS and undermines Western unity. Washington's response is cautious, recognizing Turkey's shift but concerned about NATO cohesion and future security cooperation. The EU faces a direct challenge to its influence, with Turkey and Serbia's moves highlighting the bloc's stalled enlargement and waning leverage. The expansion of BRICS to include European states signals a new era of multipolarity. Other nations are watching closely, seeing BRICS as a credible alternative to the G7. The decisions by Ankara and Belgrade could inspire a domino effect, accelerating the decline of the old Western-centric system. The global order is fragmenting, and new alliances are taking shape. The world is watching as the balance of power shifts. Turkey and Serbia's potential BRICS accession marks a turning point in the rise of a multipolar world. The era of Western dominance is ending, replaced by a landscape of diffuse power and flexible alliances. Countries now join multiple blocs, prioritizing autonomy and forming partnerships based on interests, not ideology. This new reality makes diplomacy more complex and transactional. Traditional institutions like the UN, World Bank, and IMF face existential challenges as BRICS and its alternatives gain ground. The legitimacy of the Western-led order is eroding, forcing either reform or competition. The global map is being redrawn, with blurred lines between East and West. The future will be shaped by interplay among major and middle powers, not just a US-China rivalry. While this world may be less stable, it promises greater equity and more voices at the table. The transformation is just beginning, and nations have more choices than ever before.